연사분들께서 이 자리에 함께해 주셨고 먼저 첫 번째 연사님은 여러분께서 좀 익숙한 기업에서 함께해 주셨습니다. 앵그리버드를 만든 기업이고요. 앵그리버드 경험해 보신 분들 많으시죠? 좀 끄덕끄덕하고 계신 분들이 많으신데요. 자, 이 자리에는 로비오 엔터테인먼트의 타투 피터슨 옌슨 시니어 아트 다이렉터님 함께해 주셨고요. 오늘 주제는요, Angry Birds and AI in Practice, Finding Our Own Way입니다. 자, 여러분 박수로 함께 모셔보겠습니다. We'd like to welcome you to please come up to the stage.
Thank you. And first, I would like to thank you, everybody who's been organizing Games AICON. Amazing event, and these type of events are so important for our industry. So maybe we can give one round of applause for the organizers of this beautiful event. So a little bit about my background. I have been in the games for 25 years. Okay, yeah. So I have been in the gaming industry for 25 years. I have my background in traditional arts, and I've been doing digital art since 1990s. I've worked on many games from AAA to mobile games. Most of my career has been with mobile games. And for the past 10 years, I've been working at Rovio. This is Rovio in an eggshell. So Rovio has around 500 plus employees. We have 58 nationalities. And we're most well known of our biggest brand, Angry Birds. And maybe I could show a little bit of a video to remind everybody about what Angry Birds is.
Remember Angry Birds? The reason none of us have any memories at all from the year 2009?
And it's a new game I'm calling Heads Up, Angry Birds.
Angry Bird.
Angry Birds.
Angry Bird. The slash bird.
Bird was the word.
One level done.
It's great fun to kill the pig in a game.
Big in Japan. My.
What's your name? I'm Red.
Whoa, look at that.
Shut up.
Fine.
So that's Angry Birds. Nowadays, we're also part of a bigger company because we're part of Sega Sammy.
Huh? Yeah.
It's been a great journey thus far. And a little bit about the journey of this talk, or the structure of this talk. So I'll be talking about these three things over the course of this presentation. I will be talking about the big picture, ethics, and how AI works. I will be talking about the background to finding our way. And I'll talk a little bit about our journey and learnings we have had on that way. But before we go to that part of the presentation, I would like to a little bit tell about my own personal journey. So what has my journey been? And to tell that story, I have to take you to a dark place. Ooh. That dark place is the 1990s. So this is what digital art looked like when I started as a digital artist. I was making text mode graphics for bulletin board systems that were prior to the time of the internet. I still do this kind of art as a dear hobby to me. I love doing this. It's very therapeutic. You put one block at a time with your keyboard after another and place them very carefully. And you only have 16 colors to choose from. Those skills that I learned by doing text mode graphics gave me the abilities to pixel art. So then in the early to mid 2000s, I started my career in games, and I was putting those pixels one at a time next to each other, rasterizing pixel sprites, and it was kind of fun. That was interesting phase, different times, very different times. Then I started doing stuff like this. So I moved to higher fidelity illustrations. I started using more and more 3D in my processes. This is one hobby project of mine. I did these illustrations, one illustrations per day for the start of 2022. Also in the year 2022, I started focusing more and more to AI. And I started to do everything from t-shirt designs to book illustrations with help of AI. Mostly back then Midjourney, Stable Diffusion, and so forth. And then those skills again translated to what I do at work nowadays. So I get to do more and more of those AI illustrations at work as well. And if you think about that journey, the only thing during my time in this industry, the only thing constant has been change. It's been constant change from one platform to another, from one technique to another, from one way of doing things to another way of doing things. Because, I mean, first there was the internet. It killed the BBSs. Then there were mobile phones. Then there were social media. Then there were what we have now. And as an artist, I had to go from 16 colors to 8 bits, from 8 bits to 32 bits, from 32 bits to 3D, and from 3D to AI. But none of those have been as big of a change as this. I think what we're going through at the moment is the biggest and most transformative change any of us have had to go through in our living time. I'm not sure if there's going to be a bigger change in our lifetimes than this that we're currently going through, whether we like it or not. And depending from your perspective, you can see it as this dark alley full of scary things, or you can see it as this light path leading to a light and interesting new things in the horizon. Personally, I'm kind of leaning to seeing it more in the positive way, but I'm not also blind to the negative sides and the ethical questions. Because if there's a change of this magnitude, it always comes with problems. It's never unproblematic. Whenever there's a change this big, there's also fears and concerns. And I do think that it's important that we learn to address this big elephant in the room. AI isn't fully unproblematic. It has amazing and scary ability for harmful content creation. Everything from deep fakes to fake news. Then there's the IP rights issues. This connects in the heart with many of my fellow artists They feel like their rights have been violated. Maybe so. I think from my personal perspective, I really wish that none of those artists' works would have been used in the development of those foundational models, because it actually doesn't make a big difference. For us who use AI professionally, it would actually be better if those foundational models wouldn't have those illustrations of an individual artist. What we need from those models is the understanding of the world. And on the IP rights issue, there's also the problem that when you're not in full control of what you're creating, you might be sometimes asking for something, you like the end result, but you lack the knowledge of what are the references used to make that picture, and you might end up unknowingly violating somebody's IP rights. Then there's biases. AI is nothing more than a reflection of our society. So everything that exists in our society exists in these models as well. If you ask a room, like a picture of a boardroom, you're most likely going to be getting Caucasian white men in a room, because that's the most common image of that word in the dataset. So when we're using these technologies, we have to be aware of these biases and be more specific when we're prompting. Instead of asking for just a room, boardroom, or room full of executives, we have to be more specific and ask for more diversity if we want the picture to have more diversity. Then there's the question of environments. This is kind of a hard topic, especially in the times of climate change really impacting our world in a huge way. And if AI is one of the biggest changes we're going to be going through in our lifetimes, maybe the climate change is the biggest challenges we're facing in our lifetimes. But it's kind of sometimes taken out of proportion. Yes, running large language models, for example, it is energy consuming practice. You need a lot of power to run those server farms and so and so. But then if you think about like from in the perspective of visual generative AI, you can run these models on your desktop, and often the generation time of one image is around 3 to 10 seconds. If you want to conserve energy, maybe you shut down your computer when you leave the office at evening. Then there's a kind of a made-up word, enshittification of entertainment. Sorry for the language. But what I mean with that is that when the barriers to market become lower, there's more and more content in the markets. There's hypersaturation of the markets, and it will lead. It can potentially lead to a situation where the barriers of what is acceptable quality might get lower as well. Then there's cognitive erosion. We all remember the time when we got our first calculator, and suddenly we started becoming worse and worse at calculating in our heads. Same thing can happen with using these tools too much, especially when you're using them to replace your cognitive processes, when you're using it to replace your creativity. That's not the way you should be using them, but there's going to be a lot of people who are going to be using AI this way. So it's something that we have to be careful about. And then there's last but not least, whenever there's change of this magnitude, it can also lead to disrupting of the industries. The way I've been talking about this part is that all the roles, all the job descriptions we know today will change in some way and some form. Most likely, all the jobs we currently have will be 100% different in some time in the future. None of the roles we have are transhistorical. None of them are such that they've always existed. But there's going to be also lots and lots of new roles. And if you think about this from the kind of point of view of game development, we're in a lot better position than a lot of other industries. It's going to be affecting every industry, not just game industry. It's going to be lawyers, accountants, everybody. And it's going to be a big change. But I do remain optimistic that as a society, we'll find solutions to most of the challenges. I remain optimistic also for this reason that I believe that we really don't have any alternatives. We don't have the luxury of not adapting because there's really no going back. 90% of our main competitors are using AI in one way or another. I often get asked, where did I get that number? The real number should be higher. But we're sometimes living in this kind of a bubble that is not happening because it's something that we in the industry don't talk as much as we should. There's a lot of reasons for us being silent about it, but especially when I was in GDC this year and I was talking with people working in most of our mobile game competitors, I didn't find a single company that wouldn't use AI in one way or another. And then the number becomes 100% if you take into account that even if you would say absolutely no, don't use AI to your employees, they will use it for convenience without you knowing it. So I think that number should be even higher. So do we really have a choice? I think the change is inevitable, and we owe it to ourselves, our people, and our players to adapt and explore how to deal with this change. And the change is not happening in some distant future. Like, this is not a future conference. This is right now. The change is happening as we speak. And no matter whether we like it or not, AI is making its way to the tools we're already using. One of my favorite AI tools is actually Photoshop. It's not great for generating images, but it's absolutely amazing for retouching those images that you have generated somewhere else. It's amazing for expanding the images. It's amazing for layering the images. So you might generate your picture somewhere else, you take it to Photoshop, you pull every single object to a separate layer, and then you have something that can go into the game. And eventually, all of us have to find our own way. For us at Rovio, at the studio that I work in, our way is built on this very important idea. It's built on this idea that we are not in this industry to make the cheapest games. We are in this industry to make the best games. Let that sink in. Maybe I have to repeat it once more time. We are not in this industry to make the cheapest games. We are in this industry to make the best. And we are in this industry to do something extraordinary. And we want to enable our teams to do something extraordinary. That's why, in our way, we wanted to enable our artists to also do something extraordinary. Not just do what they're currently doing, but faster, but do something that they couldn't do before. And part of that was that we wanted to put the artist in the center of it. That was part of our biggest solution. And this is how our first proof of concept pipeline in the 2023-24 looked like. It all starts from the artist in the middle. It goes into the idea and finding the way to prompt. So finding the words to describe what you want. Then you do a couple of variations. You choose the best ones. And again, it goes back to the artist. Artist takes them to the Photoshop, does the cleanup, upscales, and adds the brand essential assets. With a little bit of back and forth, in the end of the year 2024, this is what the end result started looking like. So it doesn't look like AI art. It doesn't look like AI style. AI is not an aesthetic. You have to have your own style and you have to bend the AI to do that style. And here, one of the important things is that the characters, the brand essential assets, they are still done the traditional way. They're still animated the traditional way. But the background and the Yeti character on the background have been done with AI. And all of this development led to another. And suddenly, we were in a case where our artist could do hundreds of illustrations per day. I think that is pretty extraordinary. That is one of those things that they couldn't do before. But how does that even work? I'm going to be giving very short version of how does it work, and Jorge will have a separate session tomorrow morning to tell it in even more detail. But how visual generative AI works is that you have billions of images and a lot of text descriptions associated with those images. And then you destroy them by adding more noise. And you teach the neural network to reverse that process. So making the model, you're adding noise, and then generating images, you're starting from the noise and you're removing the noise from the initial noise. And step by step, you remove more noise and you get something that the AI thinks matches the description. And in this case, the description is the prompt. So to summarize visual AI, it's all about adding noise and removing noise. Nothing fancier than that. Of course, underneath everything, it's enabled by those large language models and the whole latent space of information. So, what was the journey towards getting to that point and finding our way? We started from setting some of these ground rules. We wanted to only use proprietary materials for training, so we didn't want to use anybody else's material but ours. That was very important for us. We want only to have our own IP in the models we train. We also wanted to keep our data safe, so for us it meant that we're not using external services, we're using our own servers, own computers, we do it locally. And we respect others' IPs. We avoid infringements even in the prompts. So we don't do prompts like, do this in Pixar style. No, we don't do that. And that's something that we've set as an ethical standard for ourselves. It's just not cool. After that, we started from the obvious. We started where everybody else also starts, from the absolute wrong place. Everybody always starts from the main character, so did we. And the results were horrible. It was kind of recognizable, but really awkward. But it's not enough to be recognizable. Recognizable is easy when you have this level of brand awareness. We are recognizable even in the weirdest bootlegged copycat forms. We are recognizable even in the badly generated forms. But it's not enough to be recognizable. Brand is a statement of quality. Only best is good enough for our brands. That is true for our Angry Birds Dream Blast. That is very dear to me. Angry Birds Friends, same thing. Angry Birds 2, same thing. It's about quality. And it's even more so for transmedia franchises and things like the Angry Birds Movie 3 that is coming in the future. And all of these are Angry Birds. They're all different versions of Angry Birds. And they all need to be uniquely recognizable and authentic. And we go into very long extents to make sure that that happens and that those stay precise. We want the characters to be precise. We want only the best. And even though that sometimes we kind of get pretty good, even with our AI, it's not good enough. It truly isn't good enough. We want every single detail of our characters to be exactly as it should be. Every eye, every expression, every bend of a wing, every detail of their feet, every pose that is unique for this character. And we don't want Angry Birds Red to be acting and shaped like Angry Birds Chuck or Bomb or other characters. They're all unique characters with their own way of expressing themselves. It's really important to us. And it's really important to our fans. And because it's important to our fans, it's also very important to our business. Our role is not to mess it up. That's why we make sure that the characters and the key brand assets stay in model, style quality is consistent, stories and narratives stick to the canon and honor the brand pillars. For us, this means that we avoid using AI for the key brand assets. And what do I mean by that is that this background here is AI generated. The characters on top of it are not. And the whole key of this thing is that when we're using AI for the non-brand essential assets, it can help us have more time to focus on the characters and the brand essential assets and the stories we tell with those characters. It improves the quality for the end user. That should be the goal. But what were our biggest learnings? So AI is good for things where you don't need exact control. For us, we need that full control over the characters. It's very important to us. While we can be more flexible for things such as new locations. We learned that we don't need to be flexible on the quality or style consistency. We can kind of get very high quality and consistency with our pipelines. And all of these were just made for this presentation. They're not used for the game. And that's the power of AI as well. We can put graphics and illustrations into places where we wouldn't have time to make new illustrations before. And we learned not to expect one-button solutions. It still is hard work to make quality. It takes a lot of effort to tell good stories. And if we don't expect one-button solutions, it's starting to already be pretty good. Very powerful. We did also learn to accept some levels of randomity. It's not this bad anymore. It used to be more like this. But in the end, you get there. And we actually learned to be even more iterative with our work and learn to recognize when it's good to just try to find a better seed and when it's better to lock the seed and work iteratively with AI. And what do I mean by that is that, for example, this could be your initial generation. And you might kind of accept that, okay, it looks kind of good, but there's some hallucinations, there's some artifacts, but you might like the composition. I like the composition. I think the composition is pretty good. But I noticed that there is those problems. So what do I do is that I just modify my prompt, keep the same prompt, but add something that should be in that image in the place of those artifacts. So I asked that there could be a big gray rock, and now there's a big gray rock. You go from here to this with just adding that extra specification into your prompt. And then you identify opportunities. I'm thinking that the middle part of this image looks a little bit bland. Maybe there should be some details in it. So I asked there to, maybe the forest floor could be covered with autumn leaves. And it changes the image accordingly. But you can also recognize that it changes it fully. It doesn't just put the leaves there, but it makes the whole image such that it's logical for there to be autumn leaves in the forest floor. So now the whole season changed. And again, I identify problems. I don't know what that is. Maybe there could be poison ivy growing up the tree trunks. And again, I made iteration and made the image better. And this is the kind of process that I use. I identify opportunities, identify problems, and improve my prompt iteratively. Just as like an artist, I would be sketching and thinking like, hey, what could be here? It's not that different when you learn to use these tools. And here's the final image. We also learned to control the style a lot better. What our approach uses fine-tuning models that are trained with our proprietary materials, and often we might be using combination of multiple fine-tuning models simultaneously in different kind of weights, and then in combination of the prompt engineering and then using the fine-tuning models, we can get pretty standardized art styles that are to our likings. And once we standardize and decide what art style we like, we also learned that we can make those into templates. And that is the way that we're able to then do hundreds of illustrations per day, because we do the hard work of defining the art style in precisely. We have the data sets, the fine-tuning models, and then we can just repeat, and we can do lots of them in a short period of time. And this is how it kind of looks like in practice. It might look very complicated, but we did a lot of things to make it simpler for our artists. So one thing that we did, for example, is that we split the prompt to 4 and pre-filled the three boxes of them, so that the artists don't need to care about all of those things. So we have, for example, the model triggers and the asset types. We have the use case specific definitions like camera, composition, general palette. We have style, emphasis, and model bias adjustments. And those were kind of trial and error that I, as an art director, was doing when I was trying to get our fine-tuning models to perform the best way. So when the artist then prompts, they don't have to care about all of that. They have to care only about the middle part. The illustration is a pastel color kitchen with a round table. There's a big cake on the table. And it gives you something like this. It has some artifacts with then prompting it a little bit more, cleaning it up in Photoshop, adding the characters. You can get pretty good results. So we're using AI for things where you don't have to be in full control. You can have happy accidents. But then we don't want to have any accidents with the characters, so they are done the old way. And the rest can be done with the help of AI in Photoshop. Super great tool for cleaning up the images and working it to the final form. What else did we learn? We learned that AI can also be used for things other than generating new assets. So even those of you who might be like totally against using AI, you must try some of these. So here's an example. It's 512 pixels by 512 pixels, and it's upscaled to 32,000 pixels to 32,000 pixels. It's amazing. We can use our in-game assets for marketing purposes, even for high high-end print uses. And it works remarkably well. Feels a little bit like CSI reality. And we learned that models created based on our brand essential assets like the characters, even though that we don't use it for generating more pictures of Angry Birds Red, it can be used for generating other characters in the style of our character. And that way we can expand the universe with totally new characters and make the Angry Birds universe even better universe for the end users. We also learned that we can take our creations and turn them into 3D. Nowadays we can do it even better. And we learned that we can turn them into animations. We also learned that we can fix most of the artifacts with prompting alone. So just by adjusting the prompt, you can even adjust the pose. You don't necessarily need those fancy control nets, complicated workflows. If you're precise enough with your prompting, you're able to get there with the prompt alone. And then again, most of our assets go through some kind of manual steps afterwards anyhow. And one of the steps for us, for the characters, is the animation. Animators are so great at breathing life back into characters. So sometimes when we're generating characters, they might feel a little bit awkward. They might feel a little bit lifeless and soulless. But animators know how to do it. They breathe the life back into those characters. We also learned that prompting is not intuitive for everybody. Not everybody is good with words. It takes quite a lot for an artist to have the whole vocabulary to describe what they want in a precise enough manner. So we also developed some tools where we can let artists be just artists and just work faster and efficiently and try more things. And for example, scribble what they want. We also learned that it truly takes an artist. You really need to have that artistic eye. You need to know what you want. You need to have a great vision. You need to be able to describe that vision. You need to have really good fundamentals because you need to have the understanding of what makes a good picture. No AI is going to be doing that for you. And you also need great artistic eye to recognize when you're not hitting the target. Most of the under the bar low quality AI works you're seeing in the internet are done by non-professionals. When you have an artist using AI, you don't see the AI style in it. It's unrecognizable. Because any artist can see when it's not right, and if they know how to use these tools, they know how to correct the end result. We also learned that one very important thing. Technology changes faster than people do. The challenge we're facing is not technological. All of you have these exact same tools and technological capabilities in your fingertips. Most of it is open source. You can go today and download the same tools, build similar kind of workflows. You won't have our proprietary models, you won't have our workflows, but you can build those with a little of practice. The real challenge is how we change our organizations, how we change the way people think and how people operate. Because tools and technologies don't really matter if your people don't know how to use them. Tools and technologies don't matter if your people don't want to use them. In many organizations, this is one of the biggest things and biggest obstacles they're facing at the moment. Many art directors want their teams to be using AI, but are failing to get them to adapt. And then behind the scenes, they're saying like, yeah, I won't be hiring any artists who are not willing to use AI, but they're not willing to say that to their teams. They're doing a disfavor for their teams. And tools and technologies don't matter if our people don't know what to use them for. You need to really recognize where are the right places to use AI and where you shouldn't be using AI. For us, it's we use AI for non-brand essential assets like backgrounds, and we don't use them for characters or logos or anything other than those things where we need precise control. Biggest challenge with AI is helping your teams understand how to go beyond what they're already doing. And when I'm thinking about it, I feel like it truly is on us. Everybody who's in any kind of leadership position in our game industry, we have to help our teams break away from the current way of thinking, the current way of doing things. We have to show them the way. We have to come up with what is our way of adapting to AI, and we have to show them the way. We have to show them the way to achieving something extraordinary. Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation. We will open up the floor. 네, 저희 혹시 질문 있으신 분 계시면 손을 들어주시면 좋은 기회에 의견 나눠 듣도록 하겠습니다. 혹시 질문이 있으실까요? Maybe none. No question from the floor. Yeah. Can you 저 마이크 쪽으로 이동을 해주셔야 합니다. So we do have.
Yep.
혹시 영어로 질문해야 된다고 부담감 가지지 않으셔도 됩니다. 저희 번역되고 있으니까요. 편하신 언어로 질문 부탁드리겠습니다.
Thank you for the translation service. I love it. But for things go smoothly, I will question you in English. For the question, I really appreciate to sharing your AI usage principle, for example, like efficiency and the extraordinary and AI and not using AI to the core brand items. I really learned something through your conversation and presentation. And the question is, maybe in my thought, I thought that maybe some leadership or C level in the company, they might think efficiency is much more important.
Yeah.
So is this AI usage philosophy inside of the company, was it like a shared understanding in the beginning, or maybe was there any discussion about settling, like building this AI usage philosophy? The principles. So I would like to ask you how you convince them or how you build up this whole great, extraordinary idea for the AI usage.
Yeah. Thank you for the question. How I've been thinking about it is that it's pretty much like in our organization, I felt that it's been my responsibility to show the way for both my team and our leadership team to get them to understand the potential of AI. how I'm seeing always business is that you can only cut costs until you don't have any cost left. But if you're increasing your business, if you're making better games, you're increasing your market share, the sky is the limit. So that's why for me it's the natural way to always look for how can we beat our competition, how can we make a better game, and it kind of evolved from there very naturally. And I've been super happy to see that it's very widely shared within our organization. And most of our focus is on how can we use it to make even better games for our fans. And that is truly the key focus for us.
Thank you for the answer.
Thank you for the question as well. 질문 있으시다면 한 개 정도 더 받아도 될 것 같습니다. I think we can have one or two question if there is. 네, 앞쪽으로 이동 부탁드리겠습니다.
Yeah. Hello. Yeah, I listened to your presentation really well. I'm a programmer myself, so since I'm making a game by myself, I struggle with art. So I use AI quite a bit, but I don't have that level of quality that you talked about. But my question is less about characters, but more about inanimate objects. So when you talked about building a universe, there are characters to exist in.
Yeah.
I was wondering about what you think about spaces, about buildings, about rather than locations, places where those characters live.
Yeah.
So most of them will be 3D, I imagine, but 3D spaces I feel are still a little primitive for AI right now.
Yeah.
So what tips would you have for indie game developer
Yeah.
who wants to make those spaces, those buildings,
Yeah.
with this AI right now?
Thank you for the question. Really, really nice area also. And doesn't it feel great to be making games and be able to also make the placeholder arts yourself and not having to use boxes and sprites from other games and so forth? I do a lot of that myself. I do a lot of AI assisted programming. So I should see it as like the future is with those people who can do both, can do programming, can do arts, can do the whole thing on their own. But to your question, all those models are developing so fast that I think like even if they are not great now, they will be probably great in half a year. If you are working on something right now, I would probably look to some of those MCPs. So basically, instead of trying to generate the spaces, try to use an LLM agent to 3D model them for you. And it's extremely powerful way of creating those spaces.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much. If there is, we will take one more. 혹시 질문 있으시면 한 개 정도 더 받도록 하겠습니다. If we don't, we will conclude right here. 여러분 큰 박수 한번 부탁드리겠습니다. Thank you very much for the presentation. Thank you. 고맙습니다. 이렇게 오후 세션 준비된 첫 번째 발표 만나보셨습니다. AI의 변화, 이 변화의 물결 속에서 우리가 어떻게 각자 방식으로 또 최고가 될 수 있는지, 성공을 할 수 있는지 또 자세한 팁 공유를 해주셨습니다. 잘 들었습니다.